Hi.
Hi, Noah. How's it going? We are starting this episode mid-fight, and this is good.
Post-fight. We had our fight, and now we're starting.
Yes. It was Noah setting his boundaries before the incident even happens. Because
It's called a pre-production meeting. Before the podcast started, I asked her what she wanted to talk about. She had a few ideas, and I just said, let's not spend too much time on that, and she got quite offended.
Because you don't even know.
I don't know what you're going to say, but what you were talking about was something we've already discussed on the pod. So I was just saying, for the sake of our listeners, whom I value so much, we've already covered parts of that. Let's not spend an extensive time on that. And then you accused me of criticizing, and I was saying there was no criticism involved. It was a pre-production meeting. It was literally just an open discussion of what we're going to talk about. But now you gave us something to talk about in the opening, so you're welcome.
I did feel like you used the word productive or criticism.
I used
or what's the word?
I didn't use either of those words. I told you I was not criticizing you. Well, first of all, I started by saying, let's not talk too much about this. And you go, well, if you don't care about anything I want to say, if you don't even want to do the podcast. And I said, all I said is, let's not spend too much time on it.
Was it a Chappelle show, like a miniature stenographer, like a midget stenographer that like can track all the fights and conversations to be like,
I don't know if you
did say that.
I don't know if it was a Chappelle show, but I'm sure that's been done in a comedy sketch. Anyway, we're here now.
We should talk about the elephant in the room. I can get it over with in like super speed.
What's the elephant in the room?
What the thing I was going to talk about that we've already talked about, although I don't think we talked about it.
We've already spent way too much time.
Okay, I'll get it done really quickly.
I already hate the first 5 minutes of this podcast episode.
And we can clip it and edit it.
Okay, so what?
I did a drive to California in my electric vehicle. We've discussed a lot about vehicles. However, it was my first road trip, and I actually was having anxiety because there's not enough battery power to get to Cali. So I had to stop somewhere and charge. I was in the middle of the Mojave Desert having a really hard time with the Tesla charger, not figuring it out in the app and this and that.
We don't have a Tesla.
Because we don't have a Tesla, but we have an electric car. So it's a little like, yay, Tesla charger, boo, I don't have whatever. And I did end up figuring it out, but there was a miniature, tiny, horrible panic attack in the Mojave Desert where I was like, I want a gasoline car. This is madness. And then I got through it and paid $22 to get to California.
Much more reasonable than what a tank of gas would have cost. So,
how did you feel about the efficiency of that story?
Love the efficiency. Good job telling it. Don't know that it needed to be told, but maybe I took your legs out from under you. Maybe you wanted to add more entertaining parts of the story that I scared you into telling. But anyway, what I find to be more important, what I thought you were going to talk about, is why you were going to California in the first place.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So God forbid I should try to get to the point of the story as opposed to...
I was going to California for a retreat with Kimberly Snyder, who's a health guru of mine that I've really admired and has been wonderful in books and podcasts and things like that. Check her out if you're trying to get on your health horse. And I was really excited. It was going to be all about the heart aligned meditation. It was me and my mom, and I was coming from quite an intense go, do this to like meditation retreat. And I did a digital detox, which I severely needed. Got off my phone, got off being a mom, and just got to be zen.
Which, by the way, wonderful that you had your digital detox. So glad you had your zen moment in the weekend while I was at home with both kids solo parenting, and the boys were fine. But by being on a digital detox, that also meant you were unreachable. So as frustrating as it already is to be solo parenting, when I was trying to get a hold of you to understand what time you were possibly coming home or what time the swim lesson was or the piano lesson was, I was being met with zero response. So while you were being as zen as possible, I was actually getting as frustrated as possible.
And I understand we do take turns. I do, when you're like in Boston for several days or out for several days, you're not in a digital detox. You're very much
reachable,
working.
very responsive.
Very reachable and very responsible. But there was no cell service.
I understand. You weren't ignoring me. I'm just saying it was just funny that as you were like in a state of meditative bliss, I was not only watching the kids by myself, but being additionally frustrated by the lack of communication with my partner.
In the back of my head, I knew that me being relaxed and zen came on the back of a man who is handling a lot of stuff. And by the way, I came home to a very clean and peaceful house.
Not a very clean and peaceful house. You came home to a house cleaner than you left. I watched the kids solo all weekend and delivered a house that looked better than the one you left me with. But the kids did not eat as healthy as they normally do when you're around.
And the kids are like, my stomach hurts. Where is mommy?
We may or may not have had a pizza and wings night while we watched the game because it was a boys' weekend.
Can I sum up the learning? Can I give a 2-second sum up of what I learned?
Sure, if it's going to be interesting.
I think it's interesting. So I'll do this really quick. We're all in our head thinking about things and thinking. But apparently there's some great science and meditations and all this stuff in ancient texts, and they all lead to trying to put a focus not on the brain, but on the heart. And the heart is the first thing before the brain is developed. A baby in the womb is a heart. And from the heart is the intelligence of creating the rest of the body. So basically it's about breathing and tapping into your heart and trying to put focus here. And if you talk about it, it's not that interesting. But if you actually close your eyes and put some heart-aligned meditations online, you can do it, and tapping into appreciation. So with that, I will say I appreciate you from my heart-aligned meditation heart.
You.
And I appreciate the people watching, and I appreciate lots of things in my life. So I'm definitely tapped into a moment of trying to appreciate. None of that's funny.
No, well, it does. Everything doesn't
And
need to be
I'm
funny.
sorry.
It's okay. I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that. I also appreciate anyone watching or listening. What is funny to me is as you were saying all that, and I mean this respectfully, I sincerely love that you love this stuff. I believe it is a net positive in our lives. I believe it helps you become a better person, and the residual effect helps me become a better person as I tangentially absorb some of the knowledge or the behavior. However, when you talk about it, I literally now understand what it must be like for you when I talk about the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic, where it's like you are sincerely happy for me that I have something I'm so passionate about, and you not only could care less, are actively bored by it. When you talk about stuff like that,
And how many times have I asked you to sit and meditate with me? Oh, in this like heart meditation thing, do I say, please, Noah, will you?
No, but I did come down yesterday to you playing like tribal chanting music,
But I'm
which
not
was
pulling
not
you in.
No,
I'm
but
not trying.
I don't make you sit and watch the games with me, but the game might be on in the background. So it's actually perfectly analogous.
Yes.
Like because you're so into this, it just becomes inadvertently part of my world. Because I'm so into sports, it inadvertently becomes part of your world. The analogy rings true.
Except for one difference. If the Nuggets win, it's this euphoric appreciation and heart aligned from you. And if the Nuggets lose, you are a sour puss and you're pissed off. But with meditation, I never leave and go, oh, it didn't go well.
No,
this
that's
time.
not true, because you're reliant on meditation, if you don't get to meditate in the mornings, you turn into the sour puss that I become when the Nuggets lose. I'm actually
It's not a Coke addiction.
There has never been a more one-to-one metaphor in our relationship. Your meditation is my sports.
I don't agree, and I love that for us. I like that.
The one thing you did tell me about I did want to hear about that because I thought it was funny and relatable.
Yeah.
Was as you were going to this meditative weekend, which you may or may not have said, it was like a group weekend where a handful of Kimberly's followers could be there.
Well, some people just stumbled in, and some people were like serious followers. It was 20 people. It was a share circle.
It was a group setting. And what happened in the share circle?
The share circle was intense. People had very intense stories. And of course, there's always one who wouldn't stop talking, and people would go around sharing one at a time. And he's like, wait, I forgot something. And then at the end, he's like trying to sum everyone's up to how it relates to him. And then when someone would ask a question to the leader of the group who were trying to absorb her brilliance and intelligence, he would take the question as if we were there for him.
Truly a nightmare, worst case scenario situation
peeve,
for me.
Pet peeve.
Anytime you are in a group setting with like a circle of sharing and there's no structured time limit, there's always one asshole that ruins it for the group by hogging the spotlight. And I had a similar experience when I was in Brooklyn. I went with like a drug guru, if you will, where like you would go for a weekend. It was a bunch of people who plant medicine, exactly. But like he would prescribe what you needed to elevate consciousness based on what he felt like your story was. And there was one woman who was yapping the entire time. And so in this circle of like peaceful yogis, while everyone is trying to like become a better version of themselves on the second day, I finally called her out and told her she was talking too much. And I got in trouble by the leader of the group for not like being respectful, even though I felt as though she was not being respectful of other people's time.
I would have loved for you to be there only for that moment to be like, hey buddy, wrap it up. And in comedy, what do we give them the light.
Give them the light.
You got to give them the light. And so, but it was kind of.
Did you start waving your cell phone at him?
I was like, I need my phone. I was like, it's a digital detox.
Do you think I know your mom was also annoyed by him. Do you think you two were the only ones annoyed, or do you think the entire group was?
It was so intensely. There was a few people that just had such a brilliant heart, like such an open kindness that they weren't going to notice. But you had to be Helen Keller to not feel the irritation of this guy who made it about him. And everyone was, it's like, okay, so 19 people were very respectful of other people's time and energies. And then one person.
And I bet you what he was talking about was like boring.
Oh, the worst was this. He was like, when I was in a moment of enlightenment, and I was like, when you start to boast about your enlightenment while interrupting people and making the entire 20 people about you, when actually we're all here to learn from Kimberly.
I think I would have actively had to leave. It was very painful. I can't share space like that with someone for an entire weekend. If you told me I'm in a 1 hour class and I just have to be annoyed by someone like that for 1 hour, fine. If I'm there for a weekend with this guy and in the first few hours I can see that's what it's going to be like, I'm out.
And he brought his boyfriend who didn't talk or share. It was very odd. But here's the thing. We were all doing this heart align, and being in our hearts. And so I said, and I'll say this again, not on the podcast because we're on a time limit, and I respect people's time. It's easy to be zen and in meditating in nature with a bunch of kind-hearted people. But the real test of all this meditation junk is, can you stay zen and in your heart and open when people are pissing you off in line and cutting you off and this and that? Can you stay away from like that anger and irritation and just settle?
And so far, 48 hours back into regular people society, how do you feel like you're doing?
I think I'm doing a lot better. Like with the kids, it's not, I'll be washing dishes and they're screaming. And I think I just let it rip as loud as I could. Like, stop hitting your brother. And now I'm like filming it and taking bets. No, I'm trying to just take a breath and know that my actual breath energy is going to calm them before I even have to use my voice. Whatever.
Okay. All right. I've reached my limit of breath energies and enlightenment.
And I love that for us. And I would never in a trillion gazillion years ask you to join me. And that is
No, I'm saying like literally for the sake of this episode.
That. And I'm never going to ask you to come with me.
Wonderful.
And we are done.
That felt very final. We are done. You mean with respect to the conversation?
I mean, yes, because I'm trying to literally be respectful of
Thank you.
the time and energy that I take.
We'll cut all
There was one last thing, and then I completely forgot, but I'll go back to it as like a selfish egomaniac.
You'll go back to it like this guy who was hogging the share circle?
That actually reminds me.
Well, so here's what I wanted to talk about. I got the first, second, and third cut of my special. I've been waiting for a month to get the director's cut of my special where they edited all the audio, they edited all the various angles and sent me like the first version of their attempt of like, hey, what do you think? Then I sent back some notes and they sent me. And then yesterday I got back hopefully this is final. There was one little tweak that we both agreed on, but otherwise the special's in great shape.
Amazing.
And I am so relieved and thrilled with the fact that I'm happy with the way the special came out because again, we only shot it once. We only did one show. So it's not like if something got messed up, we could pull from a different show. If the audio was bad or one of the cameras didn't work, that's all we got. We took our chance, and I am thrilled with how the special came out. However, we shot it with 4 cameras. There are 4 different angles, and it is so funny how you don't even know until you see it how great I look in certain angles and how awful I look in other angles. There's one angle, the straight shot, where I'm watching, I'm like, I might be the most handsome man on earth. And then there's another angle from the side where I'm just like, I am a basketball-bellied son of a bitch, Quasimodo, ugly, hunchback, fat, furry fuck. And the discrepancy between the two angles. And what's funny is I also have like a slew of doppelgangers. There's a handful of celebrities that people consistently tell me I look like, and I usually know where my weight is at based on that. Where like I range from, when I'm looking good, I range from Travis Kelce, Kevin Love, occasionally Channing Tatum.
Who's the podcaster?
Oh, Andrew Huberman.
I love that.
To Seth Rogen, Ben Roethlisberger, and in the special, I could see all those in action. I was every single version of my doppelganger depending on what angle the camera was hitting me at.
I think you're incredibly handsome. I think that the camera is broken.
No, it wasn't the camera. Well, that's the thing is you can't blame the camera. That's what you look like. That's again, like if you take a million selfies and you're like, why do all of my selfies look like shit? Perhaps there's something about your appearance that needs to change.
Perhaps I'm fugly. I think also for me, I can take a picture with no lighting, but if I stand in front of a window and there's lighting in front of the window, I feel beautiful.
Yeah, obviously lighting, angles, whether it's shooting a comedy special, taking a selfie, dick pics, whatever. It's all about angles and lighting.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I had. Thank you so much for
the audio.
Oh, so that was a whole other mishigas. We got an audio. Let me just clap it up and give a shout out to the audio engineers because
the unsung heroes of stand-up comedy.
They had to do the Lord's work. I filmed in Denver for a largely Jewish audience. I would say probably 70% of the audience was Jewish.
I thought you were going to say they weren't mostly Jewish. They were just fat Jews.
No, but we got the first audio cut back. And it was just coughing and sniffling. There's something Esther and I jokingly refer to as Jewish beatboxing, which is when
it's all the Jewish noises, and then you can create like a music, a beatboxing.
That's Jewish. So anytime you go to shul, anytime you go to a bar mitzvah, a Jewish wedding, you're going to hear Jewish beatboxing. The entire first audio soundtrack to my comedy special, the director literally texted me and I was like, hey, how's everything sound? And he's like, most of the mics sound good. And he's like, but patient 0 of some kind of sickness was sitting directly next to the microphone on one of them. And they sent me the cut. And it is literally just 52 minutes of straight up coughing and sniffling. And so my special taping is this audio engineer's Vietnam. Like, if I could watch him editing my special, I assure you he had the 1,000-yard stare because when I was texting, I was like, hey, man, I really appreciate that you're getting all the coughs and noises out. And he was just like, I have literally never had to edit out this many coughs and it took him...
The Elaine Wolf... Theater.
It took him like 3 full days drinking Red Bulls, not leaving the studio, just editing out this.
I feel like when I was in the theater, I was trying to enjoy your special, but I was also a little bit of like the police officer, and I got nothing accomplished. I'm just sitting in my seat, but I do sort of remember a little too many.
So anyway, thank God they were able to, because when you shoot a special, you mic the crowd in various points.
It's a good promo for your special.
So they just took out the entire audio track. So I probably lost a little bit of crowd laughter from that side, but it is a small price to pay to remove the sound of 80-year-old Jewish tuberculosis from the background of my comedy special.
Also, we do count coughs as laughs in certain Jewish shows.
Well, let me tell you this. If coughs count as laughs, my laughs per minute were off the charts.
You got a standing cough-vation. No, you did get a standing ovation. Is that in the end?
They kept the standing O is in the final credits before it goes fade to black with the dedicated to my mom picture. But I did not know I got a standing O. As you told me, I left the stage. I said thank you, turned my back, and instantly walked off stage, and did not stay long enough to realize people were giving me a standing O because I was just so relieved to be
you
done
were like,
with it.
and I'm done. And you are such an efficient man that even a standing ovation, you're not going to give yourself 13 seconds to take anything in.
Well, it's funny because they also asked me if I wanted to do any pickups or like if I wanted to re-walk out so they could introduce me just in case we needed like options for how to start the special with me like walking out. And I was like, no, I'm good. I got it. It is what it is. We shot what we shot and we're going to use what we use.
That's the one thing I remembered from doing one and done shoots. They're like, get on stage again, leave again, leave again. That's at least I know. Not
fun for you, not fun for the audience. I don't like contrived moments. I don't like, like when you do
applause.
Yeah, when you do studio tapings or for shows. Like for years I was on Comedy Knockout or when we did Comics Unleashed, when there is a paid audience or when you do a special and it's just an audience there to help make a certain thing look a certain way, I feel gross when the crowd is being primed to react a certain way that's not natural. And I understand it's the way things are done in the business. I understand it's the way many things get shot to be more successful than they actually were in the moment. But I don't like when you're telling the crowd, okay, now let's bring the laughter up. Okay, now let's cheer. Okay, let's clap. Now give me now go, ah, ha, ha, ha. I hate all
clapping the laughter. Clap.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you always have some warm-up that's like, okay, now pretend I said something really funny. Go. And
you know what? Now that you're saying it, because I have this idea of a short film about the production of a special, that is definitely going to be part of it, is a silly clown of a man trying to do warm up and contriving every bit of like laughter and a clapped in a laughter, everyone go, oh, and it's all happening before anyone gets on stage.
I learned a fascinating, I've been doing comedy 20 plus years. I thought I knew every nook, cranny aspect of the job, the profession, the industry. And a few weeks ago when I was working at the Cellar, one of the comics who was working with me all week was an old warm-up guy. Like he's in his 60s and he's made a career out of being the warm-up comic for, like right now he does warm-up for Jennifer Hudson.
Nice.
He used to do, I believe, America's Got Talent. He was Conan's warm-up guy for a while. His name is Gary Cannon. Couldn't be a nicer guy. Was a really funny comic. So this is not shitting on Gary in any way. He was awesome.
It's a skill.
But he was telling me the politics and the skills that go into being a warm-up comic, especially depending on what kind of show you're warming up for. So like, for instance, Conan had an actual stand-up comic. Well, Gary's an actual stand-up comic, but Conan had a warm-up guy that Conan loved for years, and the guy would come out and just do 10 minutes of stand-up comedy to his crowd, and Conan loved him, but the network couldn't stand him because stand-up wasn't getting the crowd ready for an electric show. And so they brought Gary in, and Gary started doing crowd participation and T-shirt giveaways and dance contests, which Conan hated. But the network loved it because they noticed that there was an uptick in energy from the audience. And so like he had to work for Conan for the next 10 years. And he said Conan was never bad to him, but he knew Conan hated what he did.
Oh, God.
But so anyway, it's just funny because like this guy is a professional comedian and he has jokes. But as far as being a warm-up comic at the Jennifer Hudson show, he is literally just doing
T-shirt
dance contests, T-shirt guns,
candy.
And you know what else is funny is he said Jennifer Hudson has probably 30 or 40 regular audience members of just like, unemployed people in Los Angeles who love coming to the TV tapings.
Sure.
And so they're there almost every day. And I was like, so do they get sick of your shtick? And he's like, no, they know my job at this. He said he literally had them over to his house for a barbecue one time because they've become such regular audience members that he now has a relationship with the Jennifer Hudson audience.
That's so funny. The community that's in, yeah.
But yeah, so like anyway, and then he was also telling me that back in the day when like sitcoms, the Seinfeld, Everybody Loves Raymond, King of Queens, when like sitcoms ruled television, you could make $6 or $7 grand a week as the warm-up guy, and you literally, he said, some shows you just have to be there for 15 minutes. Sometimes you literally are there to warm up the crowd for 15 minutes. And then there are other productions where you have to go out every time there's a pause in production, anytime there's a mistake. So also it's a roll of the dice where you might be the warm-up act. One person is working 15 minutes a day. Another guy has to be there for 4 or 5 hours getting the same amount of money. So
I think we saw that with the All That reboot, and we brought little kids with us, and it was a lot of like the DJ trying to, and then, that was a funny thing. So we were with a little kid and we were like, who would you want to come and like pop in if it could be anyone? And he was like,
I swear he manifested it. He said Justin Turner,
which is crazy. Who, like, what?
We brought my little cousin, who is a redhead who lives in Los Angeles. At the time, Justin Turner was a redheaded player for the Dodgers, so it was just like his absolute idol. And we randomly, with zero knowledge of who the special guest was, were like, hey, Jaden, if you could see anyone be the special guest today. And he was like, Justin Turner. And then lo and behold, that day, Justin Turner was a special guest.
Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets.
Which
and it was
awesome. But yeah, so anyway, it was just interesting to learn about the politics and all the kind of moving parts of being a warm-up comic based on what skill set you provide, what show you're working on.
I feel like I'm doing some form of warm-up comedy because I'm on day 2 of a 7-day run at the Laugh Factory in Las Vegas. Love working, love doing comedy, but I am the first person on stage. It is a confused batch of random Americans who have wandered from the horseshoe. They've lost bingo. They're out of money, and they have now wandered into a showroom that says Laugh Factory on it. And it's interesting. So I'm interacting with the comics beforehand. Everything seems normal. And what I didn't realize was like, you don't know someone's act until you see someone's act. So you're like kind of talking about comedy or this or that. And then all of a sudden I saw this guy had like costume after costume and sound cues. I saw his butt. I saw his junk. Someone touched his nipples. And I was like, oh, not
very different. Yeah,
exactly what I assumed.
It's funny because I feel like anyone who spent 30 minutes in the green room with me or you before a show would not be surprised at all to then see the act that we put on.
Yeah.
It's a very real extension of who we are off stage. It is always jarring when you see someone's act who is just completely out of left field from the person they are in real life.
There was a funny moment because he was a black guy in a purple suit, and I immediately thought about a Mark Norman joke about the confidence of black guys in purple suits. But then
Mark Norman's joke, he's talking about he's saying people complain about white privilege, but black people have black privilege, like they can wear purple suits. That's
funny. So anyway, so he's in a purple suit and has question marks all over it. And I was like, okay. And of course I said, I love your suit. Oh, I'm so glad I didn't wear that. I was going to.
That's funny.
And the comic sitting next to me, this guy who had been on like King of Queens and Grown Ups, he said, I made that joke 5 minutes ago. And I was like, not only I'm a hack.
No.
I'm a green room hack.
How embarrassing.
It was really, and then I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't make that joke because you had just, and I tried to bring it. It was like, can I go home now?
Yeah, that's just
it's a wrap on the Laugh Factory.
That's the Snickers or the Southwest commercial, Want to Get Away. That's a Want to Get Away moment. All right, well, speaking of Vegas.
Come see me at the Horseshoe.
You're going to be gone by the time this airs.
Okay.
Let's do This Week in Vegas. You hit me with some. I think you're 2 for 2 in the last 2 weeks of actually interesting This Week in Vegas news.
This is huge news. Everyone knows about
it. Literally huge.
The biggest In-N-Out in the world is going to be opening, I believe, today in Las Vegas.
The biggest In-N-Out in the world. No drive-through. It's just like, what, a 3-story megaplex?
I do think there's like in Southern California, there's one that has like a bigger outdoor seating or something like that. But this one's going to be the biggest, and it has a big outdoor seating too, and indoor seating. I do feel like In-N-Out is always so packed. So I am hoping that a really big In-N-Out isn't just like 2 cooks. What if it's such a big In-N-Out, but still only 2 people are taking orders and 3 people are cooking?
It would be interesting to see if, as they increase the size of the In-N-Out, if there's a little bit better crowd control and like flow to getting your order. Because In-N-Out, I do love In-N-Out except for their shitty fries, but it always takes a really long time to get your food because it's always packed. I've never been to an In-N-Out I've been to In-N-Outs in various cities, various states, various times of day. Never not been to a packed In-N-Out. So I am interested to see.
The largest In-N-Out should just be 5 In-N-Outs next to each other.
That seems like that's what this one is probably going to be. But it is interesting that it's happening at a time when In-N-Out is also kind of feuding with California, its home state, because they're moving their headquarters to Nashville.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Nevada. I did not know they're moving their headquarters. Why? How do you know?
Because it was big news a while ago. I think it was political. Like, I think the head of In-N-Out is Republican and was no longer enjoying California's very, not only liberal social policies, but more importantly, how anti-business the state has become with prohibitive taxes, which in that respect, I do agree.
Okay. And now we Nevadans are gonna, but it is very much on the Strip, and I think it'll attract there is one at the Link, and it's super busy anyways, but good for In-N-Out.
And I guess there are still enough states that don't have In-N-Out where coming to In-N-Out would be a big deal. Like, I remember growing up in Colorado, when I would visit my cousins in California, it was a big deal if we got In-N-Out, because for a long time, California was the only place you could get In-N-Out. Then it started branching out west, where Arizona, Nevada, Colorado all have In-N-Out, so it's less of a big deal. But I imagine there are families from Ohio and Indiana and Kentucky and Arkansas that I'm assuming don't have In-N-Out that will want to visit the world's largest In-N-Out.
I didn't even know In-N-Out existed until I was 20 years old, and it was the first time I had ever gone to California. And I got to California, and I lived in Westwood, and there was an In-N-Out there, and I was like, what's this? And someone told me about the secret menu, and I was so excited.
I will say this about a Vegas In-N-Out. I feel like it should be 24 hours.
It has to be.
I feel like Vegas has the kind of city and population, both local and tourists, that could support a 4 a.m., 5 a.m., give me a double-double.
All right, we'll work that. Will you do a run to In-N-Out?
Twist my arm. I'll take the kids for dinner tonight. All right, Joke Yard. You have anything prepared for Joke Yard?
I'm just gonna, I don't think I'm out of old jokes, but I've been brewing something in my head, and maybe it's a new idea or a new joke or an old idea. I have been endlessly fascinated with Las Vegas. Good for me.
Sure.
I also sort of believe that it's an untapped resource, the real Las Vegas, not just LOL, getting drunk and losing money gambling, which is not my reality ever. But I have an idea, which is basically talking about how Las Vegas, and I want to make this a nice punchy joke, Las Vegas is a sanctuary of fun. Okay? It's an asylum or whatever it is. I want to use some funny wordage. It is about fun. Now, what I like about this city is other cities, if there's wars going on or politics or bad things are happening, that city takes it in and they kind of have a heaviness in their heart.
Vegas is impervious to the heaviness of the world.
Yes, I understand there's wars. We get it. We get there's shit on the news. There's stuff happening and popping off. But listen, there's also a 70th birthday. Every year, someone is celebrating a 70th birthday, and there's got to be one place where you can say, fuck all the noise. We're partying.
We are the Great Escape. Vegas
Gina's getting a divorce, okay? I know there's war, but also Gina's got to go somewhere and get a dick around her face and da-da-da. Yes, someone's going to get married. Someone's going to be divorced. There needs to be a sanctuary of fun, and I love that it's this one city.
Whatever is happening in Iran has nothing to do with the fact that the Eagles are still at this atmosphere, and boomers got a party.
Boomers are got a boom. They got all that money coming in from their 14 properties that they own. And so I want to make it really funny, but like a sanctuary of fun. They've got the blinders on.
So I think you said asylum before. I believe what you were referring to as an asylum city, where I believe is when like refugees are allowed to be there and cannot be deported. So Vegas is an asylum city for people not trying to be bummed out.
Yeah. Oh, Vegas kill our buzz.
Yeah, Vegas is an asylum city for people seeking good times.
There should be a poster that says "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas," and then in parentheses, "Bitch, don't kill my vibe."
Sure, I like it.
No buzzkill here.
I think there's something there. I
could also sell shirts that say "Make America Buzzed Again." I'm just joking.
Just also in a short callback to last week's episode, which wasn't part of Joke Yard, but when you went on your rant about short kings and you posted the clip, Tom Simmons, who is one of my earliest mentors in comedy and someone who I respect endlessly because of how prolific he is as a writer, specifically said in the comments that he feels like you have stumbled onto a brilliant premise of the drawbacks of tall guys. Not necessarily. I've heard people defend short kings, so it's not about like a premise of here's why short guys are great, but no one is really shitting on tall guys from the perspective of like all the drawbacks of being with a tall partner. So I'm just saying Tom Simmons feels like he? Tom is not. I mean, he's 6 foot 6'1", but he's not saying. He's just saying like
all right. Well,
you've got something there to develop as well as like
I love
the
Tom's
drawbacks of having a tall partner. Yes. Okay. So my joke yard is not a.
Well, are you going to give me notes? That's not a fleshed out joke.
I know that. So I just told you. I think it's good. I like the idea of Vegas being an asylum city for fun seekers.
Okay, that's good. Asylum city for fun seekers.
That's my note. There's how you phrase it. Vegas is an asylum city for fun seekers, and then from there you can build out the greater point you're trying to make, which is regardless of what horrible shit is going on in the world, a 70-year-old's got to come celebrate something. For my joke yard, it's not a joke so much as a funny note I saw and was just like, maybe there's something there. I said, I put clip toenails on my to-do list like I need to schedule an appointment with myself not to have talons. And I think I think it's funny because I
gotta sell it a little more.
Well, no, I'm not delivering it as if it's ready material.
Put a sound cue on.
But the thing is, I do legitimately put clip toenails on my to-do list. Like when I realize they've gotten too long, and I don't know if it's because clipping my toenails is such a task that it feels like something I have to remind myself to do of importance, or if it's one of those cheat codes where sometimes you put things on your to-do list just so you feel like you can knock something off. Like that's just like a very easy one.
Wipe my butt after I make a poo-poo.
Right. Like why am I putting things on my to-do list that I have to do just as a human being? I don't put brush my teeth on my to-do list, but there's something about clipping my toenails that lives in the gray area between brushing my teeth, something I have to do every day, and a real task like pay this bill, go write this script.
Oh, I like this, but you're getting a dopamine hit when you cross something off a to-do list.
Okay, so
there you go. Are you masculine enough to go get a pedicure?
No, well, masculine enough. It would be too masculine. I mean, no, I'm not.
Like you're masculine enough to wear pink and not feel.
I would. Yes,
as a hacky comedian.
I would not. Gay. I would not go get a pedicure because I think it's gay or not manly enough. I have no problem with that from a gender sexuality standpoint. I wouldn't go get a pedicure because I don't like people touching and tickling and messing with my feet.
Okay. So we are different.
Yeah, I think I've gotten a pedicure once and I was uncomfortable the entire time.
Okay, so clipping your toenails is on the to-do list.
Yeah, but
what else is on your to-do list? Well, tie your shoes.
Right. So I guess is there something funny about talking about how it lives in the gray area between a real task and just
yes,
shit that is way too easy and simple and human nature to even justify putting on a to-do list?
Well, it does. Your brand, people don't know this. They think your brand is smoking weed, which was long ago.
No one thinks that anymore.
Now your brand is efficiently getting through the day, crossing off things on your to-do list in the most efficient way possible. That you could do a TED Talk on being efficient.
By the way, mailing a letter became the biggest to do. I've had to send this kid a bar mitzvah check for the last 3 weeks, and I cannot bring myself to put a stamp on the envelope, write his address on the envelope, and drive it to the post office because I don't trust. However, the mail is done in our neighborhood. Okay.
There's an outgoing mail thing. Don't make it harder than it already is.
Okay.
Noah won't use outgoing mail on the mailbox.
I don't trust
at
outgoing
home.
mail in the neighborhood.
He has to go all the way to the post office and then eventually just
Go
never
straight to
do
the source. Go straight to the source.
It's just funny how we all are like, did your dad used to bring mail to the post office or something?
No, but I used to, like, growing up, we had the kind of mailbox where you would hang the letter halfway out. And so the mailman would come take the mail and then put it in your new mail. Yeah, exactly. So, but most cities don't have this. In Las Vegas, because it's so hot, individual properties don't have an individual mailbox. There's a communal mail post where, like, every house in the neighborhood has a slot because they don't want the mailman having to walk around the entire neighborhood in 120-degree heat. So because of that, I don't trust this, like,
walk.
Right. So I don't trust this communal, like, stick your mail here and trust that the mailman is going to take it and get it. So I just go straight to the source.
Feels very dorm roomy. Yeah. Very apartment. I mean, you had the apartments, but you never trusted an apartment.
Yeah. When I lived in apartments in New York, well, I never left mail for the mailman in my apartment. I would go to the Penn Station USPS.
And we have private intel because my brother-in-law is officially a U.S. mailman and he has intel.
Postal worker. That's like calling a flight attendant a stewardess.
What about a waitress, not a server?
Which one's better?
A server.
Server is better than waitress?
Yeah, I think so.
That sounds weird because I would feel like the implication that you're there to serve, even though that is what they're doing, feels more offensive to me than
I like
waitress.
thespian and not actor. Okay, I remember the thing I wanted to share.
Oh, good.
I'll make it quick, but it is kind of funny. So people are in a room sharing some of their like healing journeys. And let me tell you, it was a range of really intense emotional issues in their life. I'm not even going to go. It's not my place to share. I'm ready to share. And I was like, being a comedian is a lot of output. And the whole thing we're learning is that we're enough, we're whole, and we don't need outside validation. And I was like, this career I have chosen is all about outside validation. And maybe there was like a little crackle in my voice and like it's genuinely a thing. And I'm like, I'm going to quit comedy. I'm done with it. I'm going to be a health coach. And it was just so funny to zoom out sometimes and be like, people are talking about heavy, dark, deep stuff. And I'm like, I'm sick of trying to get likes on the internet.
Yes, one person was molested as a kid. The other person was like abused by their spouse. And your cross to bear is that you chose a career that requires constant external validation.
Being a clown is hard. And people were like holding my hand. They're like, oh dear, here's a tissue.
I'll follow your podcast. I promise I'll listen to it against his will.
My husband who committed suicide would have loved your podcast. I have great problems.
Now, in case we cut the argument from the very beginning, let's just let the people know this is going to be our last podcast for at least a month. We're going to Florida. I have set my boundary and told her if we're going to Florida for vacation, I'm actually vacationing. So we will not be podcasting for the next month. But it's a great time.
Buddy.
Who?
Our son took a podcast
No.
class.
We're not launching into a new. I'm trying to end the podcast.
We're ending.
I'm just letting people know we're done for the summer. Catch up on old episodes or send it to a friend. Goodbye.
So you heard it here. Against his will. Catch up on old episodes. Send it to a friend. Like, share, comment. And I appreciate all of the wonderful feedback we've gotten. And we will be back.